Okay, hello again, Christine and whoever else is watching this time. If you watched my first video, it was about making the pie crust. This one will be about making pumpkin pie from scratch. And as you can see, I've got my pumpkins here. Now, what I did with these, just as a recap, because it takes forever to explain and to do, you cut out the stem off the top. Just don't cut your hand off. Cut it in half, gut it, take all the seeds out and everything else. Lay it face down in a big pot, very much like this guy. Or if you just have one small pumpkin to do, you can use something around the size of this guy here, which would be just fine. This is my lucky one, by the way. It seems to cook faster. I don't know why. So that's what that does. And you line the bottom with oil and you let it bake at 350 degrees for an hour, usually an hour and 15 for one pumpkin, or for two pumpkins. It seems to me like it takes upwards of probably, oh gosh, 2.5 hours, 2 hours 45 minutes, depending upon your oven and your pot. Anyway, now that all that, the long work is out of the way, more sanitizer. Should be a poster child for this stuff. How you know your pumpkins are done, just as a recap, is going to be if you can kind of do this with them with a fork, where you just kind of barely press, and oh, I broke the skin. Look at that. Dang. That's how it should look. That's going to be a done pumpkin. So the flesh is going to fall out of this pretty easy. I usually grab a fork, though. It just makes my life that much easier. And just a blender top. And this is actually, I mean, it's not the real KitchenAid machine, but it's a KitchenAid blender, which, again, another poster child for something else I love. Any instruments you're ever going to buy for your kitchen, if you have the money, or even if you don't have the money fit, I put a little bit of it on credit. I tell you this, buy decent stuff, and KitchenAid has not steered me wrong yet, so I will tout them to the day I die, because I've broken a lot of shitty instruments in a kitchen and just been mortified in the middle of a project. So to save yourself that same sort of aggravation, I'd recommend just buying good stuff. And it's like anything, like any good tool, you know, you spend the money, you take care of it, it's going to take care of you. So I've let these cool for probably about half an hour, and I lay them. I just dump them out onto a breadboard, get them out of the pot, because if you leave them in the pot face down, it'll take you until next Christmas for these things to get cold. And if you're anything like me, you don't have that kind of time in your hands. And now I've made the reason this video is being posted in the end of July is because I planted pumpkins, and I live in Southern California, for those of you that don't know, so San Diego area. But I planted pumpkins at the end of March, so April, May, June, July, lo and behold, I've got a bunch of ripe pumpkins, and nothing left over for November. So keep in mind that if you do plant pumpkins from seeds, they're going to ripen in about 120 days. 90 to 120, depends upon your soil and your growing conditions. So plant accordingly. Now, I love pumpkins. I love pumpkin pie. I like to grow them. I think it's a lot of fun. And it's one of the most impressive things. You tell people that you make pumpkins from a real, or pumpkin pie from a real pumpkin. Truth be told, I mean, aside from this little bit of work that it is, I mean, the cooking process is really easy. There's nothing to it. And this is really the hardest part. But aside from that, it's not really, ouch, ooh, damn it, not really all that impressive. It just sounds that way, and if you're anything like me, I like to cook to impress, so that's just right up my alley to make things out of pumpkins. So having them in July isn't necessarily a bad thing for me. So we're going to do two things tonight. We're actually going to do pumpkin bread, this is my first time making it, but I feel confident. I've mastered zucchini bread in my first try, so I figure pumpkin bread can't be that much different. And we're also going to be doing pumpkin pie, which I made the crust for in my last video. which these are the pumpkins I was talking about burning, which when that buzzer went off, I was really in no danger of this catching on fire at all. I just, actually it was a couple more, or an hour and a half after that, until they were finally done. You know, won't mind the boring parts of this video. You can fast forward if you like, which I'll probably end up marking that if I'm not too lazy on the video, so you guys can just click to a spot where I'm not idly rambling on about absolutely nothing and scraping a pumpkin out. And I would have done this prior to making or starting making the video. However, I didn't want any accusations that I didn't use real pumpkins or this wasn't, from scratch. And I want the proof right in front of your eyes that this really does happen from a pumpkin. For those that are wondering, because I wondered this at one time, because I grew probably 32 pumpkins from 4 vines, and I wondered if maybe I could can some of it so I would have it. I wouldn't have to grow anymore until next year. And the short answer to that is no. How Libby does it is they must use a fair amount of pixie dust or some kind of magic, because I don't know how it happens, but from what I was told on the internet, which never lies, as you all know, is that because you can't be ever sure of the water content of your pumpkin puree, which is what I'm about to make now, there's no real way to be sure exactly how long to cook it for and what temperature to cook it at so that it gets sanitized and sealed correctly. So that's the answer to that. If in case you were wondering, if you weren't, then whatever. You don't have to watch this anyway. Go someplace else. I don't need you. To hell with you then. And that's almost ready. I'm probably going to end up pouring a lot of this out. But I'd rather, ouch, dang, it's still hot. I'd rather have too much than too little. And bear with me, folks, this is just about done. As you can see, it's not peeling out of this one as easy. That's because the pumpkin was at the top of the pot, away from the heat source, and not straight against the bottom of the pot where it could make like a little seal and steam itself really well. So it doesn't tend to. What I should have done in hindsight was to cook each pumpkin in a different pot and not tried to save on dish soap, because that just never gets anybody anywhere. There. Wash my poor little hot hands off here. Okay, so this is going to get loud for a moment, so cover your little ears or turn your volumes down. I'm going to just puree this up real quick. If you ever made anything in Blender, you know what you're looking for. You're looking for it to basically make a little Venturi thing, and it ought to be a nice little pureed deal. So off we go. Well, as with most things, you got to stab it down a little bit. So, with a spoon, backside, that way in case the blade is not terribly destructive. And then we'll do this too, so we can. I've noticed what happens with blenders is you wind up with this air bubble down there that doesn't really want to let anything cruise past it. And this is all pretty mushy anyway. It's like baby food, so you just kind of jam it down, pack it down a little bit, put your little cap back in, and kick her on again. anybody